Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Living in the Good Space, Mind, Body, and Soul. I am your host, Annette Johnson, the Fly Coach. I'm really excited to talk to my guest today. The topic that we're going to be talking about is really bittersweet because I want to use this opportunity to really raise awareness and provide some education around the crises that we're having in this country and in the world around intimate partner violence and domestic violence. And I have had the honor and privilege of working with the organization known as S.O.F.I.A to learn up close the work that goes into advocacy. I experienced intimate partner violence, or I should say domestic violence, I experienced as a child growing up and had exposure to it in my home. And so when I united with the organization S.O.F.I.A, it gave me the opportunity to really go deep and to learn a lot about the work that's being done in this space and the challenges that women are faced with and their children trying to safely escape abusive relationships. So I'm really, really excited to be able to introduce you to an organization that's been doing a significant amount of work in this area. And so I have with me today Cynthia Walker, who is the founder and executive director for S.O.F.I.A, and Tamisa Covington, who is the board president. And so please help me welcome to Living in the Good Space, Cynthia and Tamisa. Hey, ladies.
Hi
Thank you
there.
so much.
Thank
Oh
you
my
for
God.
having us.
Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, this topic is important to me. I know this topic is important to you. And first, I have to give Cynthia, I always give you your flowers whenever I can. I have to give you your flowers because it is through the organization S.O.F.I.A, and I'm going to ask you to share more about the organization, but it's through the organization S.O.F.I.A and your leadership and my involvement on the board under the direction of the president, Tamisa, that I have learned so much. I thought I knew about domestic violence because of my experience,
Yes.
experiencing it as a child and being in therapy and learning how to make peace with
Yes.
my past and my experiences. But I really learned so much working with the organization, and it helped me to get comfortable using my voice and
Yes.
sharing my story because I was ashamed for many years. I was ashamed of my story. And so working with the organization helped me to get comfortable sharing my story, but it also taught me so much about what's happening in this space, the resources that are needed, the challenges, the stigmas that women are dealing with. So I thank you so much for everything that
Thank
you've
you.
taught me,
Aw.
and how you've educated me and raised me up and empowered me in this.
Aw.
So
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Annette. Just
Thank
doing
you.
God's work. And as I learn, I share.
And you are doing a tremendous job. And I want to start with talking about your roles and how you're involved. So Cynthia, tell us about S.O.F.I.A. You founded the organization. So give us a little walk down memory lane.
Okay. Well, S.O.F.I.A was originally a organization to help troubled teens. And it became a challenge when the parents weren't willing to let the child go to a group home, to get away from gang activity and things like that, because they were going to lose out on their public assistance.
Mm.
So I was spinning my wheels. I couldn't get these parents to let these children go to another location to start out fresh. And then there was a murder in Montclair, Monica Paul. She was murdered at the YMCA in Montclair. And I met her mother at a township meeting. Excuse me. And her mother shared with me that, there's just not enough resources for domestic violence victims. And I went home, I couldn't sleep. And I was like, you know what? I think we need to step up to the plate. So the roots of S.O.F.I.A, Tamisa Covington and Adele Katz, listening to me endlessly for days, 4 early mornings, 1 a.m. calls.
Wow.
What do you think we could do? You think we could do this? Maybe we could do that. So that is the creation of S.O.F.I.A. It went from Start Out Fresh Intervention Alliance, and I just changed the last word to advocates. So we are now Start Out Fresh Intervention Advocates. hence S.O.F.I.A. So we got started about 13 years ago because I believe this year will be the 12th annual Walk Against Domestic Violence. So it's been about 13, maybe going on 14 years since S.O.F.I.A has been around. And we started out doing outreach presentations, going out to the community. We serve the emergency needs of domestic violence victims and survivors. We do empowerment workshops, motivational and financial empowerment. We have a We Care program where we deliver COVID-19 related necessities to the homes of survivors and victims. Just things that we take for granted.
Yeah.
Toilet paper, paper towels, clothes detergent, dish detergent, toiletries, sanitary needs, pocketbooks, whatever we receive donations for, we try to deliver on a monthly basis to the women that are coming out of the safe houses and also the S.O.F.I.A direct clients. So we do a variety of services throughout the community, and we do the best that we can.
You do a phenomenal job, and I have to just share this story real quick. My husband stalked you for how long?
I think 3 years. Every time we saw each other at an event, he was like, "I'm connecting you with my wife. I'm like, when Rufus? When Rufus?" And then finally, I met the beautiful Annette Johnson.
Oh, stop it!
We connected immediately.
Instantly.
Annette came on board. She helped us out with the S.O.F.I.A board. Annette was also the Grand Marshal at I think it was the 10th annual.
That was the 10th. It was the first time I'd ever done anything like that. That was so awesome.
Yes,
so awesome.
Grand Marshal for our 10th annual Walk Against Domestic Violence. And here we are today reconnecting. We are so proud of you. Happy to celebrate your retirement.
Yes,
we love you. We love your husband. We love your family. And thank you for having us on today.
Thank you. That was so funny that he, like, every time he would go to an event, he'd say, "The woman I want you to meet, Cynthia Walker, I saw her tonight." And he would give me your card over and over and over. Like, I had like 12 cards with Cynthia's name on it. But we finally connected, and I'm so happy to be connected. But Tamisa, tell us about your role. You are board president. I learned so much working on the board. I came in so green. I had never been on a board before. And so I really just sat back and watched you while you did your thing and learned and, became, got very comfortable with the board members in that role while I was there.
So as the board president, really, I am I want to say consistently thinking about and acting in the board's policies and their bylaws. So just making sure that everybody is staying on the up and up. Because we're a grassroots organization, we don't really have very many hands to kind of help us. So, we're all taking on just, a lot in the org, and we do our best to make sure that we're following everything to the letter, because, we can't afford to have any missteps or hiccups. Otherwise, it really, affects our funding. And none of this is really, about us at all. It's about, the community that we serve. And alongside of just me making sure that I kind of keep everybody in line, honestly.
You did keep everybody in line. Just go ahead and own it.
I try to jump in where I can. It's like we all, have been challenged, especially the last few years with the pandemic. So things have really shifted. And so Cynthia has taken on the breadth of most of, making sure the programming is right and making sure that, she is there to receive, any of the donations that folks from different organizations want to kind of help us with. And I'm just like, if you need me, call me for whatever it is, I'm there for you. Really, one of my jobs is to make sure the board process and board management relationship policies are kind of in place. Otherwise, I always feel guilty because this is Cynthia's passion project. Literally, she told you the story about, talking to, Monica's mom. And she is not exaggerating about the early morning phone calls and the late night phone calls, and really us collectively getting together and saying, this is a real problem in our community.
Mhm. Mhm.
How can we just make even the smallest imprint? So
Yes.
that way we can affect one or two people's lives. Like we weren't really, it's not about saving the world. Like we were looking at women who were like us, women who were adjacent to us, from, different backgrounds,
Mhm.
ethnicities, whatever. Like domestic violence, partner violence, abuse comes, goes across the board. So yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity to be a part of this very important organization. And even though I am the board president, my hat goes off to every single person in the board who is
Yeah.
busting the backside. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody is taking up the charge, and we're doing, everything we can. And that's my gratitude. That's my
Yeah,
gratitude.
the board is phenomenal. And even your group of volunteers, I know that
Yes,
you have such committed, dedicated volunteers.
from the
I
beginning.
remember the walks, and the volunteers, they showed up and they just spread out across the
From the
park.
beginning.
But yeah, and it's like first you've got this bear park, and then like it's like magic. You turn around and you've got this, this beautiful space with the
That's
tables and the colors. And I want to talk though about like some of the specific issues. I remember, Cynthia, early on, we would have conversations as you were helping me to get acclimated, and I would say, I'm gonna get men to get involved. Like, we know all these guys, and I'm gonna get them to get involved. And Cynthia warned me, and she said, you know, your intentions may be good, but don't be surprised if people start to distance themselves from you. So instead of coming closer, don't be surprised if they start to move away. And I would put these feelers out and these calls out and send out my posts and emails, and it would be radio silent.
Mhm.
And I was so disappointed because I just knew, why wouldn't the guys want to put their voice behind this? Why wouldn't they want to support? And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the stigmas that you have to deal with as an organization, and that women even have to deal with, who are in these situations because of society's, I don't know, their beliefs, or their thought process around domestic violence. So can you just share, what are some of the stigmas that you find yourself dealing with and that women are dealing with?
Okay, with the men, but yeah, there's so much stigma around the whole
Yeah.
domestic violence. There's shame, there's guilt. You know, I have friends like you shared with me, Annette, that don't talk to me anymore. I reach out to them, they never return my calls. I believe that they were in a domestic violence
Mm,
relationship at one time, or they
mm,
currently are, or they know someone. So there's still that stigma that people are afraid to talk about. And that's what we need, more people to talk about their experiences, so we can get other people that are in an unhealthy relationship to come out of the box, gain the strength and the courage to
yeah.
leave the abusive relationship
Can I piggyback?
strategically.
Yeah.
One of the things I did want to mention here today is there are a couple of organizations specifically geared towards men. Fatherhood.gov is an excellent resource. The
Mhm.
Center for Domestic Peace.org has a robust website of resources, and
Mhm.
really kind of I feel like that particular website is not pretentious. Like some
Mhm,
websites, they're kind of hoity, and and
mhm,
it's like,
Right.
all right, I know that this
Mhm.
is what it is, but I'm not sure that this is in alignment with who I am, right? And
right,
I feel
right.
like the Center for Domestic Peace.org is a good organization. And also there's an organization which is, I believe, based out of Atlanta, called menstoppingviolence.org. They
Mhm,
actually have a 24-week class. I think it's once or twice a week, where they really kind of dig in deep from like, why did domestic violence start, and what are the
Mhm.
possibilities that can kind of create it so it could begin,
mhm,
what are the signs and symptoms, how can I as a man or a male figure, step in, how can I
Yes.
be a resource? How can I be a support? They have like a
mhm,
24-week certificate program. They
Mhm.
also have like an internship, and they really want men to get more involved in domestic violence awareness to help eradicate it, because I think because it's such a taboo topic, and it's something
Yeah.
that has been going on since, way before us.
Yes.
Like you said, Cynthia, like some people think that that's a normal thing, and we're like, no, it's not normal to be
We've
abusive.
normalized it though. I believe our
Yes.
society has normalized it. And when I watch, the news or breaking stories where a woman has disappeared, instantly I know that this is a domestic violence situation. And 9 out of 10 times, by the time that investigation has ended, that's exactly what it is. And I can't tell you how many times I've been privy to conversations where people say, well, domestic violence, intimate partner violence will end when women stop allowing the abuse, as if it's something that they can control.
Yes.
So I think what I've learned is with these stigmas is that education is definitely a priority. Like organizations are needed to help educate and break these stereotypes and dismantle these stigmas that people have about domestic violence. I can tell you, even in my own situation, I had formed an opinion about women, and I thought it was that they were weak. I thought it was that they weren't assertive, or that they didn't have confidence. And that's why they were in these situations. And so there's a lot of education that I believe still needs to take place to break down some of these stereotypes, because 2022, I still am privy to conversations and people say things and I'm like, wow, really?
Right.
This is what people believe? Like they believe that a woman really wants to get her head bashed in.
We have
Or
to define abuse.
Yeah.
We have to define it. Like, if you're in a space where it's safe and you can have a casual conversation, sometimes I'm just like, can you define abuse to me? Like, let's look on Merriam-Webster and let's talk about like what the definition of abuse is. And it's for I kind of have like these like post-its and stuff when it comes to S.O.F.I.A, because I get inspired by some of the things that I see, but I also wrote down the definition of abuse in case I need to have a conversation with someone. And the broad definition is like the improper treatment of a person to intimidate or gain unfair and improper benefit. So it looks like a whole bunch of different things, and it can be obviously, verbal and physical, but really it's any type of aggression that makes a person feel less than.
You know what? So let's go there. Let's shift gears a minute, because I love the work that your organization does around the red flags, the warning signs. So let's talk about the warning signs, because you're absolutely right, Tamisa. You have to define abuse, and you also have to define warning signs so that people know what to look for. Because the controlling behavior, like the things that I learned around controlling behavior, controlling a woman's finances, who their network is, who their friends are, their family members, like really, it blew my mind, because I was thinking too narrow, and I was thinking the physical abuse, the punching, the hitting, but there's so many warning signs. So talk a little bit about what some of those warning signs are.
Okay.
Isolation.
Yes. Isolation. That's a big one.
Yes.
You notice a change in behavior.
So what do we mean by isolation? I want to make this real clear. What do we mean by isolation?
Cut off from your family and friends. The abuser will accuse you of not being available enough to them, and because they know they are not right, are you having a conversation and telling our business? Anything that is making the person feel intimidated, where they feel like in order for them to keep themselves safe and to keep their friends, family, or an extension of them safe, they isolate. So they keep themselves essentially in a box, proverbial box. So that way, that's one of the things. I'm sorry, Cynthia, did I cut you off?
No, go.
There's a list. There's a list.
I got my notes right here. I can't remember everything.
No, but I want to share these signs, because you just did a campaign on teen dating, violence with teen dating. Yes, in February. And I remember seeing some of the posts around some of the warning signs, and I thought, wow, we've got to reach our young ladies who are just entering into the dating field. You know, they're starting to date in high school and they're getting into college and they're dating. And so we, you know,
Yes.
it's so important that we do share with them the things to look out for. So what are some of the things through the teen dating program that you shared, Cynthia?
Well, we use loveisrespect.org as a resource, and we print out these palm cards that has the 10 warning signs of an abusive person. We also use them in our presentations when we go to schools, colleges, youth groups, and organizations. So checking your cell phone or email without your permission, constantly putting you down, which is also another form of bullying, extreme jealousy or insecurity. You know, these people don't want to be, oh, hey, you need to be with me tonight, you know, not hanging out with your friends. Explosive temper, that's a big one. 1 minute you're happy, next minute they're punching the wall. Then the next, like, oh no, come on, let's go eat. You're like, wait a minute, you just punched the daggone wall. What's going on here? Isolating you, as Tamisa said, from family and friends, making false accusations. We call that crazy making.
Yeah.
You know, you just came in from Pathmark, you got your groceries, and they're accusing you of being at the club.
Yeah.
So you're like, wait a minute, I just came home from Pathmark. I wasn't at the club. So that false accusations, crazy making, mood swings, physically hurting you in any way or one of your animals, possessiveness, they want to have control over everything that you have, and also telling you what to do. So telling you what to do is a big one with me, because I like to be asked what to do. And I also try to ask other people to do things for me. So telling me is not, you know, be like, wait a minute, you know, we're all in that same category. Be like, wait a minute, you telling me what to do? So those are just some of the warning signs of an abusive person. And, you know, we talk to our youth and we tell them, you know, if you see any of these red flags, try your best to get out of that relationship now, because things are not going to change. You think you can help this person or help change this person? You can't. Focus on yourself and looking for somebody that's better for you.
Yeah. And, you know, the other eye opener for me too was the verbal abuse, you know, because again, my thinking was narrow. I'm thinking abuse is physical, but the verbal abuse was very eye-opening. The way a man talks to you, or the way your partner talks to you, you know, the name calling, you know, the putting you down, the cutting you off, you know, the making you sound stupid or look stupid, you know, a lot of times, embarrassing you. A lot of times those things are just dismissed. It's like, oh, that's just how he is, you know, or that's just how she is. And I want to be careful here to not stereotype myself even with gender, because we know that our transgender sisters, that community is really going through as well. And there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of trauma that's happening, and it's not getting a lot of media coverage. Just like Black women don't get a lot of media coverage when things happen. But the verbal abuse is really big, because that is the ultimate sign of disrespect, you know, is to be called out of your name, to be said that you're stupid, to be talked down to. And so to me, that's a huge red flag. And there have been times where I've been out and I'll, you know, I'll be, what do they call, ear hustling, and I'll hear a conversation and I'm thinking to myself, this guy is abusive. Like he's talking to this woman, like we're in a restaurant and he's talking to this woman like she's a piece of dirt.
That's right. And I usually make eye contact with the victim, because I'll give her the eye like, that's not right. Because if I point it out to him, he's gonna be like, oh, you was communicating with that woman. It's putting her in danger. So I give her the eye contact like, that ain't right, girl, you know.
Listen, I have been yanked back so many times because the more educated I became and the more aware, the more sensitive I became. And so I I could look back over my own situation. I could go back, transport myself back to 7, 8, 9 years old and see all the warning signs and say, oh my goodness. Like I knew as a child, I knew when things were going to escalate. I knew when things were going to escalate, and 9 out of 10 times it did. And so
Right.
I would go into gear. I would be ready. I had my grandmother's phone number. I knew exactly what to do, and I waited for that pivotal moment, and I sprung into action because I knew what
Right.
those patterns were and what those warning signs were. But you touched on something about when you said making eye contact with the woman. I also learned a lot about safety, right? Having a safe escape plan, a safety plan.
Yes.
Because a lot of times you want to jump in and intervene, and you actually could be causing that person more harm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So share what you mean by having a safety plan, a safe escape plan.
Okay. Well, first you find at least 2 people that you can trust. If he or she is going to work at 1 o'clock in the morning, I need you to pick me up at 1:10 because he or she just left for work. Make sure you can find a person you could trust that will pick you up at 1:10, not 1:30, not 11:45,
Yes.
you know. So build that relationship and have communication with that person you could trust that's there for you, that's going to support you.
Yep.
So also, you know, you need all your credentials in a safe place. You need to take those with you. Give your spare keys. Get spare keys from someone else's apartment. So Annette, say you're my person, you can give me your spare keys in case the plan doesn't go the way it's supposed to. I could come and chill out in a room at your house until we could figure things out. It's very difficult. Most women do and are willing to go to safe houses. So when that person goes to work, and the safe house in Belleville accepts men now as well. They have 2 men staying in the shelter or in the hotel. So it's unisex. So make sure you have that plan in place, your keys, everything, your COVID-19 test results, your children's birth certificate, all those things should be in a safe place. But, you know, if you're planning on going and living with a family member in another state, you have to have those other people in place that are going to be supportive and help with the resources for you. You know, so it's not easy. It takes an average of 7 times to leave an abusive relationship. Most time we go back. Could be faith-based, could be financial reasons. We're just in love. We just want the abuse
Cynthia
to
froze
stop.
up a little bit. You froze. Yeah.
We could just simply be in love. We just want the abuse to stop. You know, so a lot of times we tend to go back, but we hope and we pray that everyone has the strength to make it happen, get the resources, and get out.
Yeah.
It's easy to say, but it's not that easy to do.
No.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, Tamisa.
Sorry, because I want to make sure that if anybody's listening to this and they don't have access to resources, I want to make sure we give out all the necessary resources that we use at our fingertips. So the domestic violence awareness hotline is a national hotline. It's 1-800-799-SAFE. 1-800-799-7233. They are 24/7, 365. And, you know, they have all of these amazing resources. And if a person chooses to go online, as soon as you go online, they trace your IP address just in case something goes down. So that is one of the really great things that are in place for a resource if you need something like really in the moment, but not super immediate. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I didn't.
No, that's okay. Yeah, no, the resources. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important too to let people know if you are aware of a situation or you're connected to someone who's in a situation, it's okay for you to reach out to get some help on what to do. It's okay for you to call and say, you know what, my sister, my aunt, my friend, my neighbor is in a situation. I don't know what to do. I remember talking to a friend of mine, and she was hearing some things from a neighbor. she heard some fighting and some yelling. And, she says, I believe the husband is abusing his wife. And there are times where I hear her screaming and crying. And I recommended that she reach out to a resource and explain to them what was going on and to ask them, what do I do? What can I do to help my neighbor without putting her in further
Danger.
harm or danger? And
Yep.
so, if you're not really sure what to do, seek help yourself and get some advice, because there are people who are trained and skilled
Yes.
at this, and they can tell you the do's and don'ts, because what you don't want to do is put yourself in harm's way too, because sometimes when you're trying to help, you become a target.
No,
that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So being educated and knowing what to do is so important. What have you learned? What has this work taught you? I mean, obviously you're very educated and skilled at what you do through the organization, but what has it taught you personally?
Tamisa.
Well, because
that was a not so soft toss, Tamisa.
Well, I always think about no matter what background, what faith, what color your skin, what gender you are, domestic violence, partner violence is a real thing. And we can't make assumptions about people, because you never know what someone is going through. They can be telling you what they're going through, but not really telling you what they're going through.
Yeah.
What I've learned is to be much more of an active listener. What I've learned is that extra layer of compassion. And sometimes you have to exercise a little bit more patience than you normally would. Because if we go back to that portion where I just said, you never know what someone's going through. Literally, if someone is choosing to share with you even a small portion of what they're going through, you got to be patient, because you don't know what else can come out. You don't know what else you need to hear, so that way you can kind of help pivot them in the right direction for a certain resource or set of resources. And what I've learned, one of the biggest things is my colleagues and allies in domestic violence awareness are amazing more than anything. I never thought that I would have the strength or the gumption to be able to be a part of this work. And I am in such gratitude to every single person who doesn't find it robbery of their time to listen to someone, to buy some diapers and share it with us so we can give it to someone who is in need, to donate some money to help someone pay an electric bill, to donate money so that way we can provide services. I don't take any of that for granted. So, I learn every single day to just be in gratitude, because that's important,
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you're right. The compassion is huge. You just don't know. You don't know what a person, and by the time they get to the point that they can even begin to share, you have no idea how long they've been on that road.
No clue.
That's right. That's right.
No idea.
No idea. What I've learned is I've had to learn to separate my emotions from being attached to a client for so long. We're talking 2-3 years, and then they go back to the abuser. And I'm in shock, because we've been supporting this person 2-3 years, and then I'm like, well, what just happened? Why did she go back? So that's why a lot of times we like to talk about why we stay in these abusive relationships. I've also learned to be a good listener. This was the training that was given when you go to become a certified domestic violence advocate.
Yes.
So that course may not be for everybody. No. If you like to be the talker, the one that wants to shine in the room, have the attention drawn on you, becoming a certified domestic violence advocate may not be for you. Right. Yeah. You have to be a good listener. You have to be understanding. You have to be compassionate. You have to be empathetic.
Yeah.
And you need to have the resources when they request to have something specific.
Mhm.
So, you sit at the police station, you listen, and then my question would be, what would you like most now?
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to just go back home. I want the abuse to stop. Well, are you going to file a TRA? Not today, but thank you for listening. And they leave. So some people just want an attorney. I'm ready to leave in about a year. I'm getting up to strength, but I just need an attorney right now so I can make sure I can file for custody of my children.
Mm.
So we give them the services for an attorney. So each case is different. I've learned to, it's so much I've learned. I don't even know, like
Yeah.
just the compassion, the empathy, the language.
Mm.
There's a show called Intervention. You ever
Mhm.
seen it?
No.
Mhm.
People are on drugs. They're either on drugs, drinking alcohol, and the family brings in a professional to do an intervention to get
Mhm.
this person to go to treatment. So I watched that show for years just to learn the language so I could communicate with victims and survivors.
Mhm.
But that was, something that I definitely needed. I didn't know how to have that conversation with them.
Mhm.
I would sit silent, so I've learned how to have conversations with them. There's so many things that I've learned, but those
Yeah.
are just a few things.
Yeah, the language, the listening, I'll definitely remember that loud and clear, is listening,
Mhm.
not making judgment, not
Yeah.
casting judgment. And it's really not about you, what you would do if you were in that situation. It's not about you asking the person 15 different questions.
No.
It's really about you creating a safe space
Yep.
where this person can breathe and feel as though they have a trusted source that can help them. They need to find out within themselves what they want to do.
Yep.
And so they need that quietness, they need that safe space to be able to do that, to kind of listen to
Mhm.
their own inner voice and follow their own intuition. So that was
Yes.
one of the things that was loud and clear for me. It was the judgment piece, because I had been so judgmental and so harsh,
Mhm.
because I just didn't understand it. I did not understand how women could be in that position. I didn't understand how women could go back, like leave and then
Yeah.
go back. And so I was
Yes.
incredibly judgmental. And I mean, I wept. I literally had to ask God for forgiveness for that, because I didn't get it. And going
Right.
through the training and being connected to the organization helped me to understand that, and how I was wrong
You don't
in
know.
casting that
You don't
judgment.
know.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
conditioned from a young child that
Absolutely.
this thing is okay. Like, I just remember years ago in a former life when I was a family advocate for young kids, for preschoolers and their parents. Um, I just I just remember like in one of our initial trainings when we had to kind of take on some more difficult things, and they were just like, you think that you know a thing or two about a thing or two, but you don't. You have not been in anybody's situation, been in anybody's shoes. So your judgment you need to leave at the door. And I'm like, I don't know, what are these folks talking about? Of course I'm gonna leave my
Yeah.
judgment at the door.
Right.
But
Right.
you know what? When you look at a situation and you're just like, and you have not gone through the formal training, you think it's absurd what
Hmm.
people deal with, because you're
Hmm.
just like, no, I wouldn't, deal with that foolishness or whatever. But that is us. That is who we are, and we can't
Yes.
project ourselves onto someone else because that's
Right.
Mhm.
selfish, right?
Right.
And that was, I think that was probably one of the harder lessons, because it's like I was raised in a family of very strong women or whatever,
Hmm.
and you know what? After having some conversations, once we founded Sophia, there were women in my family that were like really abused. And I'm like, let me think about that. And like you said, in that there are telltale signs. And as
Yeah.
a child,
Yes.
I'm like, wow, Uncle so and so really was,
Yeah.
wicked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I it's
And the idea that the woman isn't strong, is so not true.
Yes.
Because just
Not
like
at
it
all.
takes strength to leave, it takes strength to stay.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And so this idea that it's a weak woman, this woman is not strong, this woman doesn't have confidence, this one, you know, are some women, are they dealing with low self-esteem and low self-confidence? Absolutely. But that is not everybody's story. And you have women who are highly educated, lawyers, CEOs, teachers, doctors. It's not just someone who's unemployed or
That's
someone
right.
who is in a low wage,
Right.
low
That's right.
paying job. There are women of all walks of life and backgrounds who are experiencing intimate partner violence and who are dealing with this situation.
Yes.
So, you know, I appreciate you taking time to come on and just share a little bit. I know October is a month that's set aside for domestic violence awareness and education, but I don't want to wait until October. I want to use my platform throughout the year to be able
Thank
to
you.
bring people
Appreciate it.
on, talk about this situation. I want to have conversations about what do we do with children who are left behind. You know, their parents, they lose the father who's going to prison, they lose the mom because she's been murdered, you know, or they're seeing this, witnessing this behavior over and over again. Because for me, I was in my 50s, my early 50s before I tackled this topic. And I didn't even go to therapy to talk about this. I went to therapy to talk about something else.
Right.
And this
Yeah.
came up
Yeah.
in the conversation
Yes.
and wound up being an eye-opener for me. And it was connected to so many different things that I had been dealing with and experiencing, you know.
Yes.
And I used to, I was like, that's why I had such an attitude. Like people used to say, oh girl, you was just so hot-headed. Oh, nobody, my family members were like, no, we didn't want to have no parts of you. Nobody wanted to mess with you. I did not connect that back to the anger and the fear that was built up in me as a child watching this physical abuse.
Yes.
And so what it did for me, and this is a whole nother show, but what it did for me was it made me hard. It was like, oh no, you can't raise your voice at me. Oh no, I don't think so. Like, you can't talk to me any kind of way. You cannot yell at me. And God forbid you put your hands on me. Like, it just made me so hard. And I'm not talking about just like with my husband. I'm talking anywhere. I can, the grocery store. What? Did you just yell at me? Oh no, I don't think so. A coworker. Oh no. You cannot talk to me anytime. So it was something that was residual. Like it was in me, and it manifested itself through relationships, you know, because this was something that was in me that had been suppressed and I did not deal with. And so I really worry about the children who are affected because it's going to come out. It's going to manifest itself one way or the other. And I'm praying that we step up the resources for children, that, you know, they're getting the therapy that they need, the counseling that they need, the resources that they need to heal. Because if not, they're going to be the 50-year-old person who is walking around like me and didn't understand, why am I so angry? Why am I so bitter? Why am I so quick-tempered, short-tempered, you know?
Yes. Well, I know, like lately I've seen that a lot of the public schools are offering the mindfulness classes for the students, which is great. I mean, if we had that growing up, I mean, you know, I would be in a better place than I'm in right now. You know, if I was offered some type of mindfulness, yoga, you know, Zen, you know, this is what you do for self-healing. You know, carry all of these traumatic experiences into adulthood. And then by the time we figure it out, we're like, oh, dag, I didn't even know. So look at all these resources that could have been given to me. So then we plug in as soon as we can, try to take everything in at one time, you know. But as far as that mindfulness in the school system, I think that is great. They need to also offer certain classes that people can elect to take. Would you like to take yoga? Would you like to take something else? Self-healing, mind, body, spirit. You know, these should be electives that are offered in the school system, you know, but we got to do what we can do.
even what you're doing with the teen dating education and awareness, they should offer that, especially in high school. You know,
Definitely.
because this
Absolutely.
is the time when young people are testing these relationships and they're trying to, they think they're in love and they're, getting into these deep relationships. And so I think that those warning signs need to be shared at that time, and how you build a healthy relationship and what an unhealthy relationship looks like.
Yes.
But before I let you go, I asked this of all my guests. Living in the good space, I created Living in the Good Space for this purpose, is to bring people on and to have a conversation about topics that help people to move from where they are to where they want to be, or to be able to cultivate a space where no matter what's going on in their life, they can still thrive, they can still accomplish their goals and their dreams for their lives. And also to help people have a healthy, balanced life, mind, body, and soul. So I look for people like you to come and share what you're doing in the communities to help people be their best self. So a question that I ask all of my guests is, what does living in the good space mean to you? Who wants to go first?
Who are you asking first?
Cynthia, you go first.
Okay. Living in the good space to me is finding quiet time to meditate, finding time to go away. I have to get out of my normal living spaces, home, Montclair, wherever I am, I have to get away. Even if I go to a hotel in Edison, that's my time with no laptop.
Yeah.
Living in the good space to me is being supportive to people that are in need, and being someone that they can depend on. And living in the good space is knowing that my daughter is okay.
Yes, honey.
My daughter is okay and just
that.
doing her thing right now. And that has put me in a good space.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah. I echo that. I have 2 daughters, and when they're good, I'm good.
I know that's right.
Yes.
When they are good, I am good. What about you, Tamisa?
When you launched this, I was just like, what a fabulous title. What a fabulous tagline. Like, seriously, because I think about not necessarily the words living in a good space, but I just think that for an individual, the regular self-assessments, constant checking in, and really saying to myself, all right, did you pause? Are you living your best life? And my best life doesn't mean that I'm out on somebody's French Riviera, which, by the way, I would not mind.
Listen, don't knock the French Riviera now.
Oh, I would never. I would never. That's on my bucket list. But what I'm saying is that to me is perfect. But also the Jersey Shore is pretty good for me, and I think just taking time to look inward and to say, am I being the best person that I can be? Am I living up to my best potential? Being okay with being a flawed human, because guess what? We're all flawed humans. And knowing that as long as I show up to be the best person that I can be, so that way I can fill up my well and hopefully I can pour into someone else. That to me is living in the good space. Selfishness in that aspect is a good thing, because when you pour into yourself and when you get to the point of overflow, because you guys know what that's about, right? And and you have all of this excess, now you can go ahead and you can give freely without feeling like you are burnt out. So that is what living in a good space means to me.
Wow. And listen, I love the term, you get the phrase, you can't pour from an empty cup, which is what you're saying. If your cup is empty, it's the
everybody
airline.
Dry.
Exactly. I was in a training last week, and they use the analogy of being on the airplane when they tell you about the oxygen, when they're doing the safety training. And it's like, put the oxygen mask on yourself first. Because if you can't breathe, you're not helping the person to your right or your left.
Right.
So you've got to make sure you can breathe, and then you can help the person to your right or your left.
Yes.
That's right.
Ladies, thank you so much.
you,
I
Annette.
enjoyed this
you.
conversation. I'm going to have you back in October
Anytime.
to do some more education and awareness. I am a forever fan of S.O.F.I.A.
Thank
And
you.
if there's anything that I can do to support S.O.F.I.A., I'm just an email, phone call, text message away. And thank you again so much for everything that
Thank
you do.
you.
And thank you
Thank
for what you
you.
have poured into me, because what you poured into this cup, I am constantly, any opportunity I get, pouring into someone
Love
else.
that.
Oh,
So-
thank
We are
you.
grateful for you and all the fabulousness
Yes.
you are spreading out into the world. And believe it or not, we have taken so much away from you because of just who you are and the big old giant heart of a person. And whenever I describe you and I talk about you often, I'm like, Annette Johnson, AKA Love on Legs.
Yes.
Love on Legs. That is your nickname.
Listen, that's what living in the good space means to me, really. That's what it means to me, is spreading love. As God loves on me and gives me love, I want to be able to pour that out into others. It's not about being perfect. Living in a good space is not about
No.
being perfect, but it's
Mhm.
about taking care of yourself, especially when you're going through those tough times,
Yes.
especially
right.
when things are challenging,
Yes.
especially when things are dark. It's
That's
about
right.
really being intentional about loving on yourself and
Mhm.
and giving the gift of grace to yourself and to other people as well. So thank you,
Yes.
ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Annette.
Annette.
We love you.
Love you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Love you too.
All righty now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.